Chip Rogers, and welcome to the AAHOA Educational Experience. Thanks for being with us today. My guest during this show will begin with the AAHOA new National Chairman. Thank you for being with us, Alkesh Patel. Next to him is Bruce Patel, who is a Director at Large with AAHOA, and Anurag Varma, who is an attorney with Patten BOGGS, one of the nation's premier law firms. Gentlemen, this week we'd like to do something very special. We want to start with the Ambassador Program and how that is going to play into the new PAC growth strategy, which is extremely important for AAHOA. So we'll start with you, Mr. Chairman. Tell us about the Ambassador Program. You have some ideas on how you're going to take this in a new and exciting direction.
Chip, AAHOA has the Ambassador Program. It's been in place from last several years. But as a part of these new governance, we are starting it with the new views to it, and to have it, every region, we have 18 regional directors, and every regional director has 4 to 10 ambassadors that they can select from their region. The duties of the ambassadors is very important. The ambassadors are the one who plays a role of being the help to the regional director, to the chairman, to the board, and also providing the information to the membership in their respected region. So in a general responsibility, what ambassador duties is for them to be a real ambassador to the membership in the region. They will help a regional director and the board to achieve the goals that are set during the years. To be specific, if there are every regional director has a goal to maintain 300 membership in a year, paid members, and regional directors, they play a role in helping him to make sure the members are paying their dues, and also to support getting more membership. Also, as a part of it, one youth is also required, which is under 30, to promote the youth membership. And also we encourage to have one women ambassador, to encourage having the women as a part of the membership, and to promote the programs of AAHOA through our national programs.
Right. So Bruce, I know you're heading up this effort, I don't want to call it a new effort, but certainly a much more expanded effort on strengthening the PAC. And we're going to talk more about PACs in future episodes, but how do the ambassadors, what role do they play in creating this new PAC growth strategy that you're putting forth?
Well, first I'd like to say it's not a one-man effort. The whole premise of this is that it has to be an entire team approach. Under the leadership of our chairman, Alkesh Patel, he's put some lofty goals for the PAC and other things for us. And the main message today is most ambassadors know that AAHOA's members own 37% of the hotel properties in the United States. And that represents great economic power. But now we have to match economic power with political power. And the PAC fund and the growth of the PAC fund is one way to achieve that. So this year, we are implementing a new PAC fund growth strategy that involves all regions to take part, which includes at the front line, which is our ambassadors, to educate our members of the importance of the PAC fund, what it will do, and how it will help achieve our political goals. So the PAC fund growth model is something that our board has taken to heart. And matter of fact, at our first board meeting, our chairman put a challenge on to our entire board and said, we have to lead by example. And in the PAC fund growth strategy, it indicates we have to lead by example. And on the very first day, after our chairman had indicated our lead by example attitude toward the PAC fund, we raised over $15,000 by our board members alone for the next 5 years. Not just for this year, but for the next 5 years. So 15 times 5. So that's a success in itself. We have to now trickle that down to educating our ambassadors to take that approach to all our members.
And Anurag, I want to talk about the role of ambassadors when you see how it impacts what's happening in our nation's capital. It's one thing to grow your PAC fund, and we're going to talk a lot more about that. But when you're able to say that you have hundreds of ambassadors across really almost every state in America, That really sends a message to lawmakers and public policy people, because it's not just regionalized, it's not just a couple of small people. I mean, this is a nationwide effort.
That's an excellent point. When we look at PACs and political action committees in Washington, D.C., it all comes down to the local touch. It all comes down to the famous saying that a former Speaker of the U.S. Congress had, which was, all politics is local. If you have local relationships, and a PAC is a vehicle that you can use for a local relationship, so that Alkesh in the state of Washington, if he and his colleagues get together and help a member of Congress locally, there's a relationship built there. And so when that congressman crossing his desk in Washington has a law related to hotel properties, he'll think about, well, you know, I do have a friend. It's Alkesh and his friends. And a PAC is a vehicle to create such relationships. And what we're hoping to do is educate and get our ambassadors to start making sure we create these relationships all over the country.
And let's follow up on that, Alkesh. He brings up a great point. You know, there are many members of Congress who, if you attempt to set up a meeting with them, the first thing they want to know is this person a constituent? And having this network of ambassadors, especially when they come to Washington, D.C., being able to walk into, pick any congressman and say, yes, we do have constituents in your district, that's got to make an enormous impact, not only on your ability to set up meetings, but I guess your real task here is to be able to convince the members and the ambassadors, we need this army of people.
Yeah, and it's so important, and like I said, that we have been doing this, and as a part of being an ambassador, one of their responsibilities is to attend the 75% of the meetings, and two of the ambassadors' meeting that we do, they happen in Washington, D.C., and we do it at Patel BOGGS and Anurag's office, and that's where we educate the ambassadors on the importance of why we are, importance of PAC, and not only that, being involved. And just like you said, that when a congresswoman, senators, when we try to make an appointment, when we go to see them, the first thing they want to know is these constituents of ours, and also, is he a contributor or not? So these are the two things that they check, right? And that's important. So one thing also we are going to urge, as Bruce said, that this year we made sure the board of directors, not only board of directors contributes, but contributes for 5 years. And we are going to also urge, and this is going to be a urge and request from chairman, that, you know, every ambassador also should become at least a member of the 365 Club, and for 5 years. So you got 180 ambassadors, and there is a hefty goal of $1 million, you know, to raise a PAC. So you strategically do that and have the responsibility as a part of it with the ambassadors, then they can go and relay this message to the members in their area, that the importance of being active is very important, and also to be contributing to a local or national PAC is also important. So we start with being an example ourselves.
And we've only got about a minute or so left in this segment. That's a perfect segue into what, Bruce, you talked about earlier. The board's already stepped up to be an example, but I think sometimes what gets lost in these messages is that people tend to believe, well, this is just a one-time thing or a one-year thing. You can't have that attitude towards a PAC. You have to recognize this is going to be an ongoing building, momentum-building program that we're going to look back at 3 years from now and say, well, it really got going back in 2012.
Absolutely. Look, longevity is where it's at. This is not a shock and awe where it's 1 year and that's it, we're done and over with. And that's why this new PAC fund growth strategy kind of stresses on three kind of very important parts that the ambassadors need to be aware of. Number one, there's specific goals that each region needs to be aware of. And this year, for 2012, that goal is to raise $9,000 per region in PAC fund. Number two is to utilize the three clubs that we have been marketing. Number one is the $101 club. Number two is the $365 club that our chairman just alluded to. And number three, the $1,001 club. And the third part, which is probably the most important, is the auto renewal part. There's a new form now that all ambassadors would need to get familiarized with. And on the top will be the 3 clubs, and on the bottom, which will be an auto renewal section for the next 5 years. So that member can donate this year, for example, for $365, and then auto renew for the next 5 years, or only next 3 years, or next 4 years, whichever one he or she chooses. Right. And that's actually going to be a key distinction this year and every year going forward, is the auto renewal part.
All right, we've got to take a quick time out. We're talking about the Ambassador Program and where it's going with AAHOA. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the AAHOA Educational Experience. I'm Chip Rogers. My guest this week, Alkesh Patel, the new National Chairman for AAHOA, Bruce Patel, who is a Director at Large. Thank you, gentlemen, for being with us. And of course, Anurag, Varma, who's been with us a few times, who's with PATTON BOGGS. Let's go back to you, Alkesh, and let's talk about something Bruce mentioned a few moments ago, and that is the $9,000 goal. As we indicated in the first segment, you're setting some very lofty goals for this entire program, and the $9,000 goal is part of that entire scenario that I know you want to look back at the end of a year and say we accomplished what we set out to do. But this is something new and something that I don't think has ever been achieved before through AAHOA.
Yeah, and we've been, like we said, we've been working on it, and this year, as a part of what the PR and Communication and GA did last year, we are going to be implementing these, and they have gone through and do their due diligence to see that, you know, as a part of our strategic plan, we have, AAHOA has in our strategic plan a goal to have X amount of dollar in a war chest as a reserve. We always should have a reserve for our PAC, and to achieve that, and every year we should be doing X amount of contribution to the political leaders. So to achieve that, we have set a $1 million goal, and for us to do that, every regional director has a $9,000 goal. And for that, like Bruce mentioned, there are clubs that we have done. We have 1,001 club, 365. These are recommendations, you know, and we are going to try to push it to get, but these are the tools that we have. And the most important, like Bruce has mentioned, is auto renewal. We have a goal to raise $1 million. So you can't just stop, and this year if we stop at XYZ amount, then next year we don't have a tools or we don't have a pathway to go with. So we have a 5-year plan. So if we go and convince the member that it's so important and to contribute, then it's so important for us to convince him to do it for 5 years rather than just convince it for 1 year. So if we convince him to be a PAC donor, if it's a 365 club, then we got to convince him to be there for 5 years. If it's 1,001, we convince him to be there for 5 years, so our strategic goal that we have to achieve it can be achieved, and can be achieved every year rather than just a one-time goal.
And I think that's important, Bruce. Talk about this for a moment. With the auto renewal, I think where that really helps is that if you have a lot of members who have now signed up with auto renewal, then you can begin to plan a PAC strategy for more than 1 year. I mean, if everyone's just making a single one-time investment, you don't know what's going to happen the next year. You don't know what your resources are going to be. But if you have 200 ambassadors that say we're going with a 5-year plan, then you know what your revenue is going to start looking like over the next few years.
Well, yeah, and that was the exact purpose of the auto renewal, is to get away from maybe 1 year AAHOA raising a lot of PAC funds and then the next year it just dwindling down, because there's 2 parts of the PAC. One, raising it, but then we also have to spend it, because the whole point of it is to support candidates that are in like mind with us in the hospitality industry, and supporting them. So from an ambassador standpoint, the first thing that the ambassadors will need to do is their regional directors will direct them is to go over the entire AAHOA PAC policy. And I believe it's policy number REV-157. And once they get educated in the PAC policy, they'll educate them on the new PAC fund growth strategy that we've adopted. And that includes these 3 things that I said, the $9,000 goal per region, the 3 clubs, and the auto renewal, and a few other things. And after they get familiarized with that and the new PAC form that's out there, then they need to have a planning meeting with their regional directors and figure out, understand, number 1, the rules of PAC, because there are specific rules and guidelines we have to adhere to per PAC per the laws of this nation. So once they get an understanding of that, then they can formulate a plan for their own region to see how they can go about raising the funds now that they're armed with education about PAC. And one of those things that they can do in their formulating the plan is have a manned booth at every regional conference where they can actually go and talk to members, and members can come up and get literature on the PAC of what we've done in the past and how it's been successful up to now, and how longevity of the PAC is going to be very important for political power. And then the second thing is put it on the AAHOA business agenda at the meetings at our regional conferences.
Anurag, I know a lot of people, they want to believe that politics and public policy doesn't involve money, but the reality is that it does. Just how important is it to have this type of commitment to taking your PAC to a new level, both through large amounts of money that are collected, but also, I mean, you hear this talked about a lot in the political world. It's not just the amount of money collected, it's the number of donors, and in this case, the number of investors into your PAC. How important is that in Washington, D.C.? Incredibly.
I think what you're watching here is a natural evolution of our association of AAHOA, and a natural evolution that all strong associations go through, which is understanding a basic concept that exists in Washington. The only thing stronger than 5 fingers is a fist. And what we're doing through by getting the ambassadors educated and involved, and by getting people in each of the ambassadors' communities educated and involved, is getting them to understand that you may have one relationship because you gave you contributed to a campaign over here. But if all of you got together and contributed to that campaign, or contributed to several campaigns, or even better, contributed to a central AAHOA PAC fund, imagine how strong we could be. So this effort, first of all, I commend it, but secondly, I also say this is what every strong organization in the United States, whether you're talking about the unions, whether you're talking about national business organizations, and everything in between, this is the right step at the right time.
And to follow up on that a little bit, what's interesting is, I guess, in the infancy stages of a PAC, you form the PAC, you come together, and then you have to go to the elected officials and kind of let them know you exist. Once you've built a PAC, they'll come running to you.
Absolutely, they will.
And that kind of changes the dynamics, doesn't it?
It changes a lot of the dynamics. If you are known to have a strong PAC, and in future episodes we'll talk about not just having it in the account, but actually being known for using it to help campaigns and spending it. There's two sides of the coin that both are necessary. Absolutely, they will start, members of Congress will start coming to know you. They'll all know what AAHOA is, what it stands for, and who are the components. What is an Indian American, Asian American hotelier? And it's a very valuable point, and it's, like I said, an essential next step for the organization.
We've only got about a minute left. Alkesh, I know you've done many of these, but AAHOA has events on Capitol Hill where they invite members of Congress. I suspect if you are successful in moving the PAC to a new level, you're going to have a lot more members of Congress wanting to take part in your events.
Absolutely, and that's important because PAC is, and ambassadors know, I think there are a lot of ambassadors that are going to be part of this group, has been part of it for the last several years. And as now, with the new governance model, what they will be is they will be serving 2 consecutive terms. And when they saw it, and PAC is a public information. So when the constituents and the congressmen and senators, when they go and see it, when you go and make an appointment, they can see it that this AAHOA has a PAC not only of XYZ amount, 300,000 to 400,000, but for next 4 years, they continuously going to have 300,000 to 400,000, and they see the history that every year they take out and they go out and spend 200,000 to 250,000 to support their effort. And that's what is going to make it important, our voice, and also on the Hill when we go up there to talk to our congressmen and the senators on certain legislative efforts that we are pushing.
And when AAHOA has the events on Capitol Hill, if you have a large number of ambassadors showing up, that is absolutely critical. And the last couple of years have been very successful, but it can go to a new level.
Yes, and like I say, not only the ambassadors, but the involvement of the members also, because as the members get involved, as members become a PAC donors, they will get involved with the systems. And when they come in, and AAHOA, it's one of the thing about us is providing the education and educate our members. When members get educated about the importance of being up on the Hill, and when they come to these programs, when we put it together, our Capitol Hill, you know, our Spring Legislative Summit and our legislative event, when they come up and when they meet their congressmen and senators and talk about the issues that they have and the response they get, they will be able to see that it's important. Every dollar they have gave to the PAC, it's worth it, and they will be able to go and tell 10 other members to contribute to the PAC.
All right, we are out of time, but gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us during this special episode as we talk about ambassadors and the new PAC growth strategy. Anurag Varma has been our guest, along with Bruce Patel and, of course, Alkesh Patel, the new national chairman. I'm Chip Rogers, and thank you for being with us. If you have any questions or would like to contact me, you can do so. Chip@AAHOA.com. That's CHIP@AAHOA.com. Until next week, so long, everybody.